Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our live session. We are live tonight on Facebook, in our Facebook group from Lunging Training, and as well on YouTube. And I am Coach Sue, and I'm very excited to have here tonight with me our second coach, Coach Meredith. And we have a little bit something prepared for you for tonight. And I'll give you a few tips on how you can keep your horse fit and healthy and engaged during winter with lunging training and lunging exercises. Since I know for some of us that are more in the northern area, it's already really, really cold. Meredith and I are a little lucky. We're at the moment in a warmer climate, still enjoying incorporating the lunging training exercises in our work. Great. So let's get right into it. First off, we'll give you guys a quick introduction of us coaches. Myself, as I mentioned, Coach Sue. I actually grew up with Cherokee horses and more like a classical dressage background, coming originally from Germany. Some people might guess from the accent. And I have been teaching right now like over 20 years experience in teaching equestrian vaulting, focusing on the recreational vaulting. And alongside that, trained many vaulting horses, some therapeutic riding horses, and kind of lunging is one of the very important foundations. However, I also have very much learned to appreciate really lunging more as a cross training to riding or other activities that the horses do. And that's kind of been my big passion to spread the love and the knowledge about lunging and how the different disciplines from like dressage to jumping to western to vaulting can incorporate lunging training into their training with the horses to really work on particular muscle groups or keep them fit and get them to stretch well and be in a good condition. So with me here today is Meredith. Hey, Meredith. Good to see you.
Hello.
And I have to share a little bit how we met. Meredith actually had signed up for one of our master classes that we host 4 times a year on lunging training. And I got to know Meredith quite a bit, and very much we have been appreciating the exchange among the different disciplines. And Meredith comes from a very interesting background, and that's really phenomenal in handwork. I visited her and have seen some of the horses that she has worked with and the great progress in building up muscles, getting them supple and in training just even in hand. So I invited Meredith for this winter edition that we're offering of the masterclass to join us and enhance it with actually some in-hand work and bring in her spin on the lunging. So with that being said, Meredith, take it away. Love for you to introduce yourself.
All right. No, that was a super introduction. Thank you. So, my background, I started in my wee years as a hunter jumper rider, and I moved into eventing, and I've come full circle, I guess. I am now still doing jumping, but I have a better appreciation and understanding of dressage, and I'm working under the Légèreté method, which is lightness, ease, and grace. So we all want our horses to be light and soft and supple and relaxed. And that's one of my goals, is to help educate everyone in what I know and provide that knowledge. And what I'll be doing is showing some in-hand work later on in the course. So, and it's something that you can even do in your barn aisle. So when it's really cold outside, but you still want to see your horse and you still want to do some work, and you can't lunge even because it's blizzard outside, but you're stuck in the barn, you can do some in-hand work, which is kind of cool. And then you wait for the blizzard to go away, and then you can go on outside and do your lunge work. and I'm laughing because it's 70 degrees here. It's hot. We don't know what blizzards are.
Chicago friends this morning, there was like some minus 15 wind chill, and we're talking degrees, not in Celsius. So they're like, we're not moving.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meredith. I'm super excited and thrilled to work with you together, and I'm looking forward to learning from you as well, more in the in-hand work. And I'm looking forward for the group that we will be um, guiding through the journey and kind of keeping their horses fit during winter. But we'll share a little bit more about the upcoming masterclass that we will be offering. So it's called the Masterclass in the Art of Lunging, which is a group coaching format where we meet every week with a group of usually around 8 people max. And we will look at the different horses and have through that different cases and learn from each other. Really, we go through the lunging principles, how to define and individualized training plans. And really, what we want to reach with the course is to what I always call like develop an eye and seeing what each horse needs, like where they're in their training plan, what muscles you want to work on, where they're in terms of rhythm, relaxation, suppleness, and then what are the right exercises or possible exercises to use. So that's really the benefit of this group coaching format. All right, let's move forward. Not to forget, Meredith and I are both representing tonight on Lunging Training, which is a platform online or community that started off as a shared offer from 5 experts that came from a background of equestrian vaulting, dressage, or pleasure riding. And ever since, it's become this platform of a lot of different blog posts. Highly recommend to go. There's been a lot of great content written. There's a few different videos online on the YouTube, lots of how-tos on great resources. And then the main offer is that we have also courses, which is either way this masterclass and group study. There's also self-study version if you kind of want to go on your own pace and go through the course in lunging. As well as possible to book online one-on-one classes or have clinicians come and do even an in-person clinic. So we connect different clinicians that are available to the needs of the interest. So feel free to reach out and we'll see how we can help. Cool. Also, not to forget, there is a Facebook group which over 6,000 people are joined our great exchange there, where you can post your questions and get answers from the community. And that is called Lunging Training, Lunging Long Lining, Long Reining, and Horse Cross Training. So look it up and feel free to join. Sweet. Let's keep it going. So, as Meredith already noted, it's bitter cold outside. How can you keep your horse fit? What are some fun exercises for your horse or also for yourself to increase really your knowledge in lunging? So, tonight we'll have like 10 tips for you and how you can do that. Let's get right into it. Tip number 1, really set a lunging goal. Let's think about this. Who of you takes your horse out and lunges it and actually has a clear defined goal, what you want to reach in that lunging session or over the next 10 weeks when you're lunging your horse? Now is a good time to sit inside. All right, season for competitions or activities are starting again, like in April or even March. How can I incorporate lunging until then, and what do I want to reach, starting from improvement of rhythm? I want to work on long and low, hind end engagement, or maybe it's really just as easy as incorporating some more stretches, which doesn't need to be lunging, but could be your in-hand or ground working goal. So overall, tip number 1, be mindful about your in-hand work or your lunging activities and set a goal for it. Overall, we went back and actually asked the question, why do we lunge a horse? So the kind of blowing up steam is kind of a classic. And honestly, I've been seeing this as the most common perceived goal, which I would question. I see it a lot at competitions in the morning. People just kind of like the horses being lunged to kind of blow off some steam, or there's not enough time to ride or lunge it then. But then there is more mindful, I would call it, use application of the lunging where we say, oh, this is great. I can actually targeted work on stretching and strengthening on back muscles, or I can really improve the horse's performance and overall appearance with it. thinking about and setting a goal for it, and really give it a variation to riding, and build up a different connection to the horse as well. Obviously, it can also be leveraged when the horse comes back from an injury. We've seen it when horses want to be prepared for jumping, something to like to do that on the lunge line as well. Older horses, when they start getting a sinking back, um, or really train kind of specific muscle groups. And that's one of my favorite ones when I start getting horses that come and people want to start working on really a lunging training plan. I love this first step of assessing where they at, which muscle groups they want to work on, what's the goals, and how can we reach this. So that's really a big fun part of mine. Um, Meredith, any like thoughts on like what's a good thing to keep in mind when setting like goals for like in hand work?
I mean, I really like the bullet point about work against that sinking back in the older horses, because our barn has suddenly come up with about 5 retirees, and they're not ready to retire, but you can see their muscle change. And so I think that's really awesome that we bring this into the group, because we'll be able to show with your lunging techniques and with some of the on-hand work how we can develop that. And that really helps the rider and the horse progress to, I always say, we need this horse another year, but when I have one that's 20, and I just told the kids, we need her another 10 years. So we have to exercise her properly. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
that point.
That I'm glad you're bringing this to attention. I actually just had one of our boarders, her horse turned 20, the Arabian gelding, and he really doesn't act like 20. And I feel like with proper training, the horses are really quite a longer time rideable, and lunging can really be a huge benefit in that to make sure that the sinking back that we kind of working, I don't want to say towards it, but with that change of the horse and supporting that progress that's happening. Sweet. What we get next? Well, in terms of setting a goal, it should also be a variety of different aspects that you really want to do. So, for example, your lunging session could have the goal of rhythm and suppleness. Doesn't mean you also need to reach in the same session. Oh, I got to work on conditioning and endurance as well as one to have more long and low stretching or hind end engagement. I always recommend highly to only work on one goal, or like start up a session with one and maybe transition. However, be mindful of it. That goes together with what's the condition or like the mood of the horse that day, and then also what you want to reach. But potentially over 3 months time frame, thinking about, okay, these weeks I want to kind of work on rhythm and suppleness. That's really important to reach through, like working on long and low and stretching, or eventually a goal can just be I want to introduce the horse more to sliding side reins to encourage them to stretch long and low. While this might be a pass that takes a little while you get there, because you really want to reach that self carriage. But let's not get too much into detail, but just in terms of setting a goal doesn't mean you always have to follow through with it. There's adaptations needed on the horse's sequences and progress, as well as the daily form, and especially in winter. However, be mindful of setting a goal. Okay, that's really a number one tip. Number two, now we're coming to a couple fun ones in detail. Handling your lunge line like a pro. Who has had like a tangled lunge line? Like I can say that. I probably had this in my last lunging session where I always have to watch out how good am I to actually rolling it up properly. I think it's a great skill that's awesome to sometimes just take the lunge line off the horse and do some dry exercises to improve your own skill on handling the lunge line properly. And that goes really great when it's so cold outside. So, that being said, uh, do like a reality check on, are you handling the lunge line correctly? Some of the tips are, how do you actually hold the lunge line? How do you roll up your lunge line? So the two pictures show that sometimes I see this people kind of fold it up like a bed sheet, and just kind of fold it back and forth the lunge line, versus is it rolled up in like loops, ideally getting smaller, not too long that you don't step into it, and then nicely slides off your hand when you let the horse out, for example. So that's a great one. Good tip to exercise. Actually, check out our YouTube channel for that, which is literally just London training if you look up on YouTube. And I will post this later, the links in the live session below. And there is a great video on how to roll up the lunge line correctly. Tip number 3 stays with your personal skill on how to handle the lunge line correctly. Shortening and lengthening the lunge line. I see this all the time. It's so hard to keep a consistent contact really to the horse's mouth. How do you do that? And how are you being mindful to shorten and lengthening that lunge line? That can start from literally just extending your arm is also lengthening that lunge line, or like bringing your elbow back. A more can also be shortening, but then really when it comes to, for example, when you walk towards the horse, how do you roll up the lunge line while shortening it and keeping that connection to the horse? So great one to practice. Again, there's more how-to videos for this in our YouTube channel. Tip number 4, practice changing the whip and the lunge line when changing directions. So that's another one I see in the classes and when we give clinics, one that people find really difficult. Either way, it's kind of like many horses like to kind of turn in, like if they would do liberty work or the western lunging, the horses kind of turns in and turns around. That is a little tricky when you, for example, lunge your horse on a bit. You kind of really want the horse to like pause on the outside circle. You can be able to walk up to it, bring the horse in the middle, and then change. And besides of all of that, you want to figure out how to handle the whip correctly. So there is a few great tips on that. These pictures just kind of showcase how you hold, for example, when you lunge on, let's say, the left side. I go then and take the whip, actually fold it under my arm, this way. I fold it under my arm and stick it under the elbow pit, under the armpit, and then I roll up the lunge line actually to navigate that. There's different ways of doing it. These pictures show an additional possibility. The tip or the recommendation is use those cold days to practice your skill set and how the lunge line and whip can be fluid. Okay, that's what we got next. Number 4 is kind of similar. Half holds is the same. It goes back to having a good contact between the horse's mouth and your hand, really. So for this, it's sometimes even nice to hold the lunge line the way you would hold the reins when you're riding. At least, like, well, in English riding, we do that. To kind of give these half holds in a similar manner, because at the end of the day, the lunge line is an extension of your rein, and the cues are still the same as if you would be riding. So it's really helpful to practice that and be mindful of the half holds, and does your horse react accordingly to them. This is another great tip where it's good to remember the basics in handling how the lunge line, how to hold it correctly, and half holds are part of this. Number 5. So this is kind of, the team came up with kind of a fun list of things that you can do when it's too cold to ride. The first one we had practice rolling up the lunge line correctly, hold the lunge line correctly, give half holds. Now, how do you do this when you're not in the barn? How about just lunging a child, a roommate, a husband, or a dog has been seen? Then next, really how to pull, moving to the inside handling. Oh yeah, okay. This is great with really like high energetic kids. Like if you have a young horse, sometimes act similar. What do you do if a horse pulls to the outside and decides to actually drag you to the arena? So great one to practice. It's a little bit more of a fun, but it's one to keep in mind. How do you handle the situations? And how do you walk towards the horse for direction change is also something you can literally practice with hooking up the lunge line, even just on a railing or on a wall. A couple good things to do with gloves on and while you walk through the barn and it's too cold to do anything else. Last but not least, have some fun and irony in those activities. Meredith is like, this is the final conclusion. We have like 4 more tips. Tip number 6 is how to use the whip correctly. With the whip, I have seen very interesting practices with that. Some people have like lunge without any whip. Others have a really long whip. Other one has actually a really short whip. So I'm kind of really strict about that. I'm like, lunging without a whip is like riding without a leg. This is really your driving aid, and you need this whip to help the horse to understand what you want from it to do, to get the hind-end engagement, the rhythm that you're looking for. So highly recommend for you to familiarize yourself how to correctly use the whip, what are the benefits of it, and how to do that. Again, there are some videos on our YouTube channel. As the basic rule, always think about the golden triangle. And this is not the design triangle. There's also a golden triangle. No, it's a golden circle, I think. We'll talk about the golden triangle now. Handling the whip. Basically, from where you are to the horse's mouth and to the hind of the horse, that's your triangle. That's your range where you're moving in and acting. And the whip, and everybody can train their horses very differently on that, but in the basics, whip up means more forward, whip down means slower, whip towards the shoulder means out, whip towards the belly means either way engagement, could like be signalizing your leg. And then there's a whole wide range personal preferences and how you can handle the whip in fine tunings. Like in vaulting, we keep them up straight. We're not always pointing them, but we have that triangle still in form of our body language. So keep that triangle in mind and check yourself when you're lunging if you're still in the triangle. That being said, there's fun exercises on how to handle the whip. We're always saying like, are you golfing? Are you playing tennis? Or are you basically even higher, feeling like you're throwing a ball? There's a lot of mediums in between on how to handle the whip actually correctly, and how it's also the nicest way for your arm and your elbow. So good exercise for this is, and how you target it. You reach your horse where you want to reach it. The fun exercise is to put up a couple empty cans. There's actually a video on our Facebook page that I did during COVID. So feel free to go check that out, and it gives you examples of practice and how you can improve your skills handling the whip. Okay, I'm talking a lot, Meredith. We're gonna make sure we'll have you say something here. Remember the basics of body language. Let me see what we have here. Well, it goes a little bit back to the handling of the whip. So we talked about the triangle, and then your body is also very important in the lunging to really look into how it's impacting how your horse runs in the lunge line. I have often people that come to me, my horse always turns around. It always looks to me. I was like, where is your buddy? Where are you standing? Why is your horse turning? So this picture kind of shows if your body is towards the front, you're signalizing the horse to stop and you're risking it to turn into you as well. If it's in the middle, you are where the golden triangle, where you're in your triangle position, or you tell the horse to kind of bend around you. Versus when you're more behind, you drive the horse forward. So just these positions are a lot to be aware of and what that means to your horse, and when you're lunging the horse and the impact of it. So great one to like think through to practice and gain body awareness. Where is your body at? What are you doing? What are you expressing to the horse when you're lunging? Next one is body language. Also, your expression completely, like chest up, means for the horse energy, and it's like, okay, energetic, we'll go forward. Versus if you're just kind of slouching into yourself, the horse is probably not giving you all the attention that you're wanting to. So that's another great one. To really like a segue, but Meredith, I know body language is also a very important part when you like kind of when we talk about in hand work. I'd love for you to like kind of throwing you under the bus here, but love for you to like chime in. What's your thoughts on body language just when you like think about the work that you do?
Right. No, and that's a great question for the in-hand work. So a lot of times we're much closer to the horse. We can be further away, but when we start, we're much closer to the horse. We're in between, say, his ears and his shoulder, and our body is. We still have that triangle, but it's a smaller triangle. It's in between his ears and his shoulder, and we're right in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. And if we step back, sometimes that tells the horse, "Huh, you're being submissive. You said you wanted something and you didn't mean it."
Oh, very interesting.
So that's kind of a cool thing to think about, especially even when you're lunging. If you back up, you're moving away from the horse, and either that will tell the horse, "Hey, come here," or it will say, "Ha, you don't really mean what you said," or
right.
You weren't super clear. So I think a lot of times is, and we don't want to be aggressive, but we don't want to bluff the horse, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay with him. I like being nice and tall. Pretend you're riding the horse. We don't really slouch. Well, okay, sometimes. We shouldn't be slouching when we're riding the horse. So in our groundwork and our lunging, we shouldn't be slouching either. Um, Questions on that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, our body position, no matter if it's on the horse or on the ground, sends a message to the horse, and like um it it gives them confidence, and also like helps them understand what we want from them. So I think we all underestimate in many things that we do with the horse what the body language actually has as an impact, and it's a fascinating process to like being aware of it and like using it like actively. There's a lot of things in horsemanship, courses and activities that are being done where body language is also really a key part within it. So yeah, thanks for your input, Meredith. Love that. Let's see, we got a few more things before we're going to come to point to wrap it up. Oh, here's my favorite one. So, um, another great tip, which you can do during winter, and I highly encourage this, is learn more about side reins and how to use them. So, side reins I can confidently say are much more differently and commonly used in Europe than I've seen it here in the US. And really, the understanding of the application is there's less knowledge available here. So that's one of the reasons, kind of, why we are doing these activities, to really introduce people more. What's the different lunging aids, and how to use them, and when to use them, and where can each of the aids have a place, or everybody personally decide for them this one or the other aid is not the right form for what they want to reach. So one of the parts that we like to talk about is the sliding side reins. In this picture, you can actually see them. What I like about it compared to the solid side reins is it gives the horse the opportunity, as it says, to slide up and down, and it's not completely fixed in a frame. The fixing in a frame actually does not allow the horse to build up self carriage, because it is it's carrying itself within a frame, a very fixed frame. So versus the side reins give him the opportunity to go before the vertical. It could also go behind, but it's really that game between going up and down and finding that middle, so it can give him a direction on where to go. And I think I'm already took ahead what's been said on the next slide. Let's take a look. Yes, here we are. Basically, that's what it's saying, and I'll leave this up here for people to read a little bit later. Really, the goal of it is for working with the side reins to support reaching more suppleness. See the side reins, or especially sliding ones, as an extension of your reins, as if you would be riding. You work with your reins to work the horse into the contact of the rein, to look for that contact and help it to figure out where you want it to be positioned when you're riding it, to help it also to find its self carriage, or like to step more under in guided height age. We always need that contact to the horse. So with the sliding side reins, it's kind of giving the horse the direction to where you want it to go. There's different ways in adjusting them to either way, if you have a goal for more like long and low that day, or if you want to work on more rhythm, transition. So that's something we excessively go over in our courses to explain, to really apply correctly. It's very important to us that this is applied correctly, and gets reaches the most benefit for the participants. Okay, a quick one. Two differences as between Laufer reins and Vienna reins. The Vienna reins is what's called when the sliding reins is connected in between the horse's legs, goes through the bit and then to the side. The Laufer reins is in a triangle on the side, and both have give, as you can see, like this horse is a little high here. I mean, it's significantly front of the vertical, which is fine because it is sliding up and down, and through cues, we're encouraging it to find its right position, to find its self carriage, while it moves forward in a steady rhythm, or we work on long and low, for example. What is this one? Has already come more towards the point where it finds its self carriage. The reins are even hanging a little bit more because it is not in that frame, and it's finding the position on where it can activate its back muscles the best. So that's something that I promote and I really like to work with and share the knowledge with others. Okay, so please go. There's a lot of blog posts about it. Feel free to read more about setting sight runs on our website, or reach out if you want to have more questions. Tip number 9, and then we're gonna go and get it wrap it up here soon. Structure your lunging session as a cross-trained riding. So I really encourage people to like rethink on what lunging is, can be, and how you can apply it. And by sides, just kind of like, okay, let them run a little bit of lunge line. How can your lunging session really be serving as a cross training to your riding? That really, you got to have awareness on what is your goal in riding, what are parts you want to work with your horse on. So questions can be working the horse long and low for stretching and lengthening. Is that one of your goals? Improving rhythm. Is your horse already in a good rhythm? Where is your horse at in the training pyramid? Transitions to activate its hind ends. Really good, like, walk trot transition, trot canter transitions, a round or two, or really depending on where the condition of the horse is at. But transitions can be really great to really activate more, the hindquarters. If that's something you're struggling with, for example, under the saddle, like to complement. There's many others. Again, we go through this very detailed in our classes. So feel free to reach out with if you have more questions. We encourage, as a tip, use these cold days to think through when you lunge or prepare a lunging session, why are you doing it and what's your goal? How do you want to structure it? So tip number 10. Oh, you can also take an online course, which, for example, the masterclass of the Art of Lunging. While it is so cold, it's a really great time to expand your education, for example, in lunging. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Let's talk a little bit more about what actually is the masterclass and if that's something that could be interesting for you. It's a 10 lesson course. Really, it's more of a group coaching than a course, I would call it. You get instructional videos, not that many actually. It's really more about the interactions with the group. You get things to read, you get homeworks, you have to do videos of your own horse, you share that with the group, we analyze them together. That's where the big learning benefit comes in. You will see Meredith and myself once a week on Zoom, probably. I think we're using Zoom or Google Meets. We'll see. And we will be there for you. We're excited to see the journey of you and your horse and where you guys at in your learning. And we'll have part of it is really doing assessment of your horse at that moment, where you want to go. And then this time we will also have Meredith teach a bit more about the in hand. I have a few more points about the lunging, but Meredith, I'd really like to hand it over to you and shares a little bit what you will be sharing with the class.
Okay, so when I start with the in-hand work, I really discuss, how we may or may not use a noseband because it's restrictive in our in-hand work. You can use your noseband, but we just need to make sure that it's loose when you use it. So we will give some homeworks on that, and you'll get to test it out and see what you think. We're also going to talk a little bit about different bits that you can use with that in-hand work, because again, some bits are restrictive in allowing the horse to move the way we want them to. And again, it doesn't mean you can't use bits when you work your horse, but there are certain bits that work better with the in-hand work. And so I like to talk about that and then have discussion around that so we can problem solve and that sort of thing. I talk a lot about how we actually want to shift the horse's weight. So our in-hand work helps us move our horse's balance from left to right shoulder, left to right side in the back end, to really start thinking about what is his back end doing, so that then also he's lifting his belly to help with your more lateral work once you get started in that. So we'll talk through quite a few things, I think. So
I am super excited about this, especially I've seen you doing this, the exercises on like really targetly work on balance, like really starting from like a solid stand and like sending at how to like bring the horse send it potentially backward, and the different steps that you really have that, and even just for us to learn how to see how do we do this, what needs to be done. And I think it's so greatly complementary to the lunging, because frankly honest, in the lunging we run in a circle. Doesn't mean it cannot benefit the horse's balance. However, there's more to it, and we cannot always have our eyes inside the circle, outside the circle, and see everything that's going on. So in the in-hand work, I feel like we get a different like 360 degree on where the horse is at. And I'm also very thrilled about talking about bits. I found that always a big topic where we don't have so much awareness about. In the lunging, I think there is a few set of bits that I recommend. I tend to fall back to the same bit for most horses. However, I'm really interested to learn more insights from you on actually, okay, what do these different bits actually do to the horse's mouths, and how can we benefit with those? So,
Yeah.
yay, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's really great.
Right, let's share. I'll share with you guys a few more points on like what we do as part of the kind of the lunging, or kind of what can you take out of that course if you spent like 10 weeks with us now. So first of all, you can gain or refresh your basic skills as a lunger, and your lunging knowledge, and now also gain a few basic skills on like in hand work, and you'll have a really good understanding of the different lunging equipment. That's always very important to us to go through that so people know how to use it. And then in addition, Meredith will add now a bit more about a better understanding of the bridle, the nose bands, and the bits for the in hand. In addition, how to use and in which situation, according to your training goal. You'll also learn how to gain insights in the different side reins and how to leverage those the best way. Again, that's my favorite part. You'll accomplish practical experiences and exercises. So really, in the one hand, I would say we'll do two parts. We'll give you the base, or three actually. We'll do the basics of the lunging. Now also a bit of in-hand work. We will work on you as a lunger, from like starting your body language to your voice cues you use, and how to really apply your skills properly with the horse. You'll get an overview of the equipment and lunging philosophy overall. And then there is the horse. The biggest part, obviously, in like where is your horse at and how to see that correctly, and what does your horse right now need in terms of lunging and potentially in hand work. That being said, you really developed and strengthened your eye and your skill to assess which horse needs which lunging program. For that, I love that part when we do the video assessment of each horse and then go with the entire course through it and already have some aha moments on what can be done. And then at the end of the course, we look at the horse again and then all the like progress it has made. So lots of fun. And yeah, last but not least, will have an outlined training plan, an individualized training plan for your horse, which you can do with lunging and groundwork. And then in no time, winter will be over, and here we are already working on spring training. So, cool. Let's see what else I have to say. Oh yeah, last page. Tati prepared this beautifully here. There's a little QR code where you have the option to scan and right away gain some more information. It brings you to a page with all the good things that you need to know. Would love to spend the rest of the winter with you once a week, learning, getting to know your horse, and sharing a lot of love about lunging training and in-hand work. And the course is starting already very, very soon, January 27th. So enrollment is still open. Make sure you like save a spot for you and bring a friend along. It's always more fun. I remember was that in the class where you were the lady that always came like at night with like a glass of wine? Because usually classes are at night and it's a different
Right.
time zones. I was like, awesome.
Great.
So cool. Well, Meredith, come on. I'll have you like say a few more things. Today was a little bit more talking from my side. Meredith's turn is next time. So I would love for you to share with our audience a few more thoughts and that you have for our upcoming course.
Well, I mean, I think there's so much to talk about, right? We get on a roll and we just keep adding to it and learning that, oh my goodness, there's so many more things. So what I think we're really going to enjoy with this course is that we're going to hear from you, and we're going to hear what you're struggling with or what really works for you, because we want to know that information also, because maybe we're struggling with something that's easy for you. So I think that would be really great to hear from everybody on that, and really just share knowledge. One thing that I think is funny about body language is there was a study that horses remember your expression. So we need to remember that. Just because, if we're standing up tall, that's one thing. But if we're standing up tall and we're kind of frowny faced, they remember we're frowning.
That's so true.
But if we go in and we're laughing and smiling, they're like, oh, cool. I remember that person from yesterday. She was all happy and now what happened? So I think that's really good to remember that, your horses remember. And what's awesome about that is they actually did a study that said, and I'll have to look up the study on that, but apparently horses are one of the most expressive animals, including people. They're even more expressive in their looks than dogs, which I thought that's actually pretty cool. So here we are thinking about our body language. Let's check in with our horses too and see what they have to tell us with their expression.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel like the horse is always like a mirror of us, and especially in hand work. When we sit on the horse, we don't quite see that body expression as much. I mean, we can see they're working with us and the ears going back and forth. But I feel like in hand work and in lunging, once you're on the ground, there's so much communication happening through body language, and really you get to explore and experience so much more of the horse's body language.
Right. And I like lunging and the in-hand work because it also gives you an idea of how is this horse going to feel when I ride him?
Mm-hmm. So true.
Is he really heavy, or is he heavy because I'm heavy with my hands? So it teaches you to be lighter. It teaches you to understand what your horse needs. So I think that's going to be really cool. And I really am looking forward to watching our videos because I think that's really telling. And I even videotape or have videotapes done of me when I lunge or do my in-hand work because that's how I learn as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
Super. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up now. And the live is going to be recorded in the live section. So everybody has the option to replay it. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Meredith. And I will be posting a few links under the live session. So you have the option to follow up if you watch this later. Awesome. Well, have a wonderful night. Thanks, Meredith, for joining.
Thank you. Take good care, everybody.